Hello and welcome, my dear Sky Modelers, to my small hobby YouTube channel. My name is Tomo, and today we're going to be taking a look at planes from yesteryear. Well, hello again, now that the intro is over. How are you guys doing? How is your Sunday? How was your week? Let me know down in the comments below. In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at Eduard airplanes. Why Eduard? For two reasons. One, it was a request from a previous video, which you can check out here. Two, I like old style planes because they are far more glamorous, colorful, and more exciting to look at as opposed to modern day aircraft. At least that's my opinion. So for today's video, I have chosen 5 planes from a company called Eduard. Why these 5 planes? Because we had them on stock. Well, that's partly true. The second reason would be I really like them, and I really like them a lot, and if I had more time I would certainly build all of them. So I've chosen 3 Fokkers, an Albatros, and a Nieuport. 4 of them are in 1/48 scale and 1 is in 1/72 scale. For those of you who do not know, Eduard is a plastic model manufacturer from Czech Republic. Eduard is probably best known for their photo etch parts and resin parts that they have, and they produce them for other manufacturers. For instance, if you buy a Tamiya or an Airfix kit, they usually do produce some detailed parts for those particular models. If you check out their online store, you'll see that there's a ton of detailed up parts for various manufacturers all across the world, and there's a high chance that you will get what you're looking for with them. But they also have their own line of model kits. Now they generally have 2 types of models: weekend version, blue box, and professional version, orange box. The difference between them is basically in how much stuff you get inside. So the weekend versions are usually just plain run-of-the-mill models, no photo etch, no mask, just models, and usually they're really cheap. The professional version are models that contain detailed up parts, usually photo etch, sometimes resin, masks, and in general the models are usually a little bit more complex. Price point, of course, is a little bit higher as well. When it comes to quality versus price, I think Eduard is positioned really well in the market, and especially if you live in Europe, you can get them really cheap. Case in point, all these models that you're gonna see today are priced under 20 euros, with the exception of Fokker E.II/III, which is 22 euros, but that is the professional version with photo etch parts. But still, 22 euros for something like that, I think it's a steal. Like usual, I will leave timestamps down in the comment section, so you can jump on to the various models that you're interested in, or if you want to binge watch the whole thing, well, go right ahead. I really want you to see everything. Well, with that all out of the way, let us jump into the boxes. Let us first take a look at this Fokker DR1 weekend version, model number 8487. The model is 1/48 scale, it's very well detailed, and it costs around 14 euros, depending on where you live. Upon opening the box, you'll see 3 sprues, decals, and manual. Being a 1/48 scale model, the parts are fairly big and the detail is very nice. The attachment points are nice and long, where you can come out with the snippers really nice and tight. The parts are not that flimsy, and there is actually no flash. This particular model is fairly new. It has been released in 2019. The model itself has around 100 parts or so, and they're well laid out with clear instructions and a nice big decal sheet of paper. This plastic model is very well detailed with not a lot of cleaning to do, and even the smaller pieces are very well defined. Because of all of this, I would recommend this model to a beginner, intermediate, and a seasoned modeler. This particular model is a late war model from 1918 with complementary markings as flown by Lieutenant A. Rabin in France of October 1918, and as Lieutenant Hans Koene as flown in Belgium of April 1918. The decal sheet of paper is nice and big with lots of crosses and lots of smaller details, very well printed, crisp and sharp. Because this model is fairly detailed on the inside as well, and you do not have photo etch parts, you compensate this with decals. So you get harness straps as decals as shown here. On the decal side, you also get this rather long stitch line that runs through the entire length of the aircraft on the bottom side, that represents where the fabric of the aircraft is stitched together from two parts when it covers the outer surface. Eduard manuals are usually printed on glossy A5 paper with some degree of color to give this pizzazz and flavor. Eduard model kits usually have parts that are not used, and those are marked with blue on the front page of the manual. And in this particular case, we don't need one propeller, two machine guns, and a horizontal tail stabilizer. The manual is well laid out and methodical. It is not cluttered, and your eyes kind of flow from one page to the other without going into immediate panic. What I really appreciate about these manuals is that they have color representation of the airplane on the back of the manuals, so you have an idea of how the airplane is supposed to look when painted. And also, if you have certain specific type of paint jobs, they tell you what paints to mix together, like here, to achieve the desired look. The second model that we're going to take a look at is this Albatros D.V, a very colorful German airplane from World War I. It has around 100 parts as well. It's a 1/48 scale model. It costs around 15 euros and the model number is 8408. As you can see, this one has far more surface detail than the previous one, with nice panel lines that are not too deep and not too wide. This is also a 2019 release, so it's fairly new. It has a nice buildable cockpit with lots of details. The attachment points are nice and long, so you come here with snippers and take it out with no problem. There's very little cleanup, and these little stain that you see right here, it's basically leftover process from the molding, so that's not snot, but it looks like. You also get this little figure, but for some reason it's not supposed to be included in the build. It's marked out with the blue, which means that it's not supposed to be used, but I guess you could probably use it, I don't know. And the engine is there, you have the exhaust, you have the propeller, it's nice and straight. You only use one propeller. Again, you have two propellers, but you only use one, so just refer to the manual before you start building and you'll be just fine. Like with the DR1, I would recommend this to all level of skill sets, from a beginner, moderate to a professional model builder. It has a reasonable decal sheet of paper with lots of crosses, some decals for the interior cockpit instruments, and of course the belts and harnesses for the seats. The manual is printed on A5 glossy piece of paper with 8 pages. It has a blue and black vibe to it with color scheme on the back. You see here the blued out areas of the parts that are not supposed to be used. The manual is a new type of manual, which means it's very well designed, very well laid out. It's not cluttered, it's simple, your eyes don't wander all over the place, and it's easy to follow. A minor criticism from my point of view would be the font size, which in some cases, well actually in all cases when they are depicting which colors to use, is a little bit small, so you kind of have to squint a little bit if you are poor eyesight. And the paint scheme is the reason why I really like these type of airplanes. They're so colorful. Even though they're military aircraft, they're colorful and they're interesting to look at. There's not monotone, one type of color. They're just nice. And we are already on the third one. This one is a bit of a doozy. Fokker D.VII OAW, 1/48 scale, model number 84155. Price point around 18 to 19 euros, depending on where you are. So why is this one a doozy? Because it has far more parts than the previous two. And the reason that it has far more parts is because you basically have two planes in one box. Well, actually you have two fuselages in one box. They're different from the outside, but basically it's the same in the inside. And they share all the other parts. So you can actually build just one. So you have to choose one or the other. You can't just build both, unfortunately. The other thing that makes it a little bit more complex is going to be revealed in just a moment when we take a look at the decals. But for now, let me just say that it has certain parts that are not supposed to be used, and those are marked with blue on the instruction manual, so just take note of that before you begin. Other than that, the parts are nicely well laid out. They have lots of detail, not a lot of cleanup, and I think that in this particular case, I would recommend this to an intermediate and a seasoned model builder. I believe that beginners should stay away from this one because of this extra complexity that you will see in just a moment, and because you have to do some fairly gnarly modification in the beginning of the build, and that might put somebody off. And now we come to the second reason why this is a doozy of an airplane to build, because of these decals that go on top of the wing surfaces. And these are very big decals, and for a beginner, I don't think so, because you know, decals are very delicate, and if you do them wrong, you can ruin the whole thing. And this one has lots of decals. Not only this, but just wait a little bit. It's coming. You'll see. Yeah, look at that. Individual stripes that go on each of the ribs of the wing structure. That's a lot of decals. And also these decals. They're beautiful decals, don't get me wrong, and really nicely printed, but there's just a lot of them. So that is the only reason why I would not recommend this to a beginner. But other than that, you know, go right ahead. You can see everything is nicely laid out, beautifully printed, sharp, crisp, beautiful. Again, we have a glossy type of A5 paper manual with black and blue elements. It is a little bit more of a cluttered manual because it's an older aircraft, and especially in the beginning when you have to do some surgeries, like here you have to remove this part of plastic and then kind of assemble the whole cockpit area. It seems like your eyes are just kind of going through it like, oh wow, we're moving left to right. It's just, oh my, so much detail to do. It kind of overwhelms you right off the bat on the first page, and that could kind of put somebody off. Later on, the manual kind of eases up and kind of opens and says, okay, you've made it. You've done the cockpit. Now breathe. Breathe. It's gonna be okay. And just when you think it's over, it says, ha ha! No, it's not. You have to do the paint job. And although, yes, the paint job is fantastic, I love the color scheme for both airplanes. Because of the decals, oh no, look at those stripes. Oh no. And here we are to the fourth model on the list, the Fokker E.II/III. This is the oldest one that is in this pick, and it's 2008 release, model number 8156. And this one costs around 20 to 22 euros depending on where you live. It's a 48 scale model with photo etch parts. Yes, this is a Profi Pack edition, which means lots of craziness. Lots of craziness. Because this is an older model, it tends to be a little bit more Flash Gordon-y. So you do have a little bit more work here on certain parts. Not a lot of work, you can see from the videos, but there is a little bit more cleanup. You can see that the process there was not as refined as the newer ones, and just like on the wing surfaces, you have some cleaning up to do. But again, it's a nice model. If you're gonna buy it, you're not gonna regret it. As far as fit issues, I don't think there's not that many. Honestly, I think from my experience, they're pretty well designed. There are some minor naggles here and there, but not like catastrophically bad. The attachment points are good and long, nice sharp detail, and one thing here is very clear to me, and probably to you too by this point. Plastic is really thin on some parts, and you'll see a demonstration right about now when I shine a light through. See, it's basically see-through. So yeah, these plastic parts are delicate. You get a lot of photo etch parts with this one, so this is definitely not for a beginner, and even an intermediate model builder will have its hands full with this one. So just be aware that this is crazy details on cockpit, on every single surface. It's enhanced with photo etch parts, and if you are the kind of person that likes photo etch parts, then this is the model for you, definitely. This is the only airplane that has a visor, clear parts, but simple, and a mask for the clear part, but that's basically it. The decals are nice, big, beautiful, printed, crisp, sharp, no complaints there. Yeah, just basically German crosses. Well, the smaller text is not as sharp as on the newer ones, but who's complaining? Well, I am, but that's beside the point. Anyway, moving along. Nice decals. I think you'll love them. There's a lot of them. Not as much as on the previous model, but it's good. Good, yeah. Oh boy, now we come to the 12-page glossy printed A5 manual. Holy moly. This one is an older one and is pretty condensed. Maybe this is not represented well on the camera shots, but when you are looking at it from my perspective, when you're looking at it with your own eyes, your eyes just kind of jump from one square to the other, from one page to the other in erratic form, just trying to make sense of what version you're building, where you're building, what you're putting, what you're gluing, and it just becomes a little bit overwhelming. It's like they're forcing you to just do everything at once, and you have to kind of slow down and think about what you're doing. It's not as much guiding you, but just showing you what to do, and it quickly becomes overwhelming. So I think they should kind of revamp this one. When it comes to paint schemes for this particular model, you have four. Well, actually you have just one with various degrees of dirtiness. They're basically just different types of decals for different versions of this Fokker E.II/3. So, you know, you can see one is a little bit lighter, one is a little bit darker, one is more yellowy, you know, and the other one is just dark. So, yeah, but it's colored, so it's nice. I approve. And here is the last model for our review today, the Nieuport Ni-17, model number 7404, price point around 11ish, 12 euros depending on where you live. It is at 1/72nd scale model and is the newest of the bunch. It's a 2021 release, so yeah, this year, and is the easiest one to put together. I think it's less than 100 parts, so it's, you know, beginner type of aircraft. Maybe the professional, more skilled, seasoned model maker would be like, but for a beginner, I would highly recommend this one because it's just simple. It has a rather rudimentary cockpit with not a lot of details, and even some surface detail is a little bit sketchy, like here on the rotor motors. Yeah, it could be better, a little bit more sharp, but still. The model certainly is not going to blow anybody's socks off. But for what it is, I think it's pretty okay, decent, you know. You be the judge. In my opinion, I think this is really a true weekend build model because you can basically do it by a weekend if you're doing it all day and if you have nothing else to do. So yeah, it's pretty true to the name. for a 1/72nd scale model, you get quite a lot of decals, and that's because you have 4 variants for 4 different types of aircraft, well, markings anyway. And the markings are fantastic. I just love the art. So, you know, if you're like me and you like this type of aircraft, I think you will enjoy it, and I would as well. I really want to build this one in the future, and maybe put this little cockadoodly thing on the side. This time around we have a manual that's printed on A4 glossy piece of paper with 8 pages, and it's pretty awesome. It's easy to follow, it's spread out, and it kind of guides you leisurely around the parts and saying, oh, put the wing here, put the engine here, the engine cover, oh here are the wings and the mounting for the machine gun. Oh, do be so kind to put the landing gear on. It doesn't feel rushed, and it's pretty well designed. And just like with the other manuals, you have a colored paint scheme guide which guides you through how the aircraft is supposed to look when painted and where the decals go. Pretty straightforward and simple. It's just fantastic to look at. I mean, just look beautiful. What do you think? Tell me down in the comments below. Which one of these aircraft do you like most, and which one have you ever built or will be building in the future? That's it for me now. Back to the studio. And that is pretty much it. Those are the 5 models that I wanted to show you guys in this video. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please like, comment, share, and subscribe. I would also like to know from my American viewers if you guys have access to Eduards model kits, and if so, how much do you have to pay for them, because I'm really interested in that. And how well are your local hobby shops stocked with Eduards model kits? Leave down, type down in the comments below. I'll read every single comment. So thank you so very much for watching. If you haven't, thank you for liking, commenting, sharing, and subscribing, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye bye.